And today, Governor Jeff Landry's call for a special session on crime came to life. The state lawmakers convened for the start of the second extraordinary session of 2024. Colin Vidros has more on what this means for the state and the continuation of the Governor Landry's mission.
Last year, I promised the people of the state of Louisiana, if elected governor, I would do everything within my power to improve the safety of our communities through both legislative and executive action. Today, we continue that process.
From now until March 6th, the state lawmakers will discuss and vote on bills that will affect how the state moves forward when dealing with crime.
The ongoing debate and the day-to-day work we're deeply involved in here in this Capitol of improving our economy, of protecting our environment, and reforming our educational system, they all lose significance if our communities are not safe.
Day one of session included the introduction of 20 House bills and 13 Senate bills. 7 of those bills were written by lawmakers in the Central Louisiana Delegation Caucus. State Representative Rhonda Butler of Turkey Creek created House Bill 3 that proposes drug testing for controlled dangerous substances within 24 hours of booking, followed by random testing to verify drug-free status. The bill maintains confidentiality and removes mandatory pretrial drug testing for all arrested for state law violations. At February's North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance meeting, Butler said it's important for her to stand up and fight for rural areas that see lots of crime. State Senator Mike Reese of Leesville's bill, Senate Bill 8, would establish a state public defender office and transfer authority from the Louisiana Public Defender Board, allowing court-appointed appointments for indigent individuals. Reese says the public defender system in Louisiana has not performed as well as it could, despite providing proper defense regardless of income or background.
We have a bill this session, the criminal justice session, where we'll take the first step of what will be many to start trying to make that a more robust part of the criminal justice process.
According to Governor Landry, victims of crime face not only the loss of their lives, but also the unknowns of a criminal justice system that has forgotten them.
The proposals that we lay out today were constructed by listening to the voices of the people, by listening to those responsible for protecting us, for listening to those responsible for administering justice, and listening to those who matter most, the victims of crime.
The crime special session must finish by March 6th. The regular legislative session is expected to begin on March 11th and must conclude by June 3rd. For News Channel 5, I'm Colin Vidros.